Okay, seniors, here's your lesson on tracking applications. Class number 8. I'm recording this so you guys can have class 8 basically to do some work as we talked about. And if you're a parent watching this, great. This is a good lesson on how to track your applications once they're filed. So let's take a look at what's going on with the life cycle of a college application. This takes you all the way through to the end. So right now we're at this review and send portion. Completing all your portions, you're getting ready to send. Many of you are applying by November 1st, so that's where we are. The next step, of course, is to follow up and track and make sure everything is there. Soon we'll be talking about interviews and then updates for your application. That could happen really in January and February for regular decision. And then you see the rest. This is, it's when you receive your decisions comes next, comparing offers. May 1st is the universal candidate reply date, although many of you who do early decision 1 will respond in December. Thank you to your teachers. Notify your counselor where you're headed. That'll be basically in May, and staying in touch with the college throughout the life cycle. So again, where we are right now are these 2, 3, and 4 bullet points. Moving ahead. I thought the best thing to do would be to show you the example of a college application status page. When you apply to college, you'll get a username and password that says, hey, here's where you can check on the status of your application. Eventually, this is also where you'll get your decision for the most part. Although some colleges are doing some of them via email, very few now are actually doing them on paper. You parents may remember that, but for the rest of us, for the students, you're really talking about getting this online. This is an example from Tufts from a few years ago, and it's just an example of what this looks like. I put this little arrow here to show that's the portal for financial aid, but what we're looking at right now is the portal for admissions. And as you can see, here are the different components of an application. Okay, now remember, everything goes separately, so you don't have to wait to do your part of the application. You don't have to wait to send your portion, and all you have to do is set everything up so that your teachers, your counselor, and the testing organization can send your materials. That is, if the college requests that you have them sent. All right. Now, you're seeing here the student is applying regular decision, so this date of November 2nd is perfectly okay. Again, you're noticing that they submitted it on the 1st, but it wasn't received until the 2nd. That's usual. It sometimes even takes about a week for that stuff to come in. This status page tells you what's been received, but not what's been sent. That's an important distinction to make because, again, even in the digital age, it can take up to a week for things to come in. So as you can see, the writing supplement came in on the same day. Usually those two things go together. The secondary school report, the counselor recommendation, and the transcript, those tend to come together because, again, I send all that stuff via Naviance. Your counselor will do that. The teacher recommendation, again, at the time, Tufts only required 1, so that appears on November 2nd. Okay? And testing requirements at this time, I believe they've changed their policy, but Tufts said you have to send in your scores, and those arrived on November 7th. Now again, for most colleges, as long as things are sent ahead of the deadline, it's okay. You can get things, they will accept it. For some colleges, they say you must have everything on this the deadline. The only one I can think of is the University of Michigan. Okay, but again, this is your status page. This tells you what's at the college right now. Let's take a look at another page. This is Babson College up in Massachusetts. Similar kind of thing. There's your My Babson Portal. Here's all the information, all the documents coming in. Okay, counselor rec on the 31st. Again, mid-year grades. Mid-year grades are really first trimester grades, and those will be available in December, really in January. For regular decision colleges, by the way, the colleges will all get mid-year grades. At early action and early decision, mid-year grades are not sent because they're not available yet. Same thing for first term grades. That's First term and mid-year is pretty much the same thing for us since we're on the trimester system. Okay, again, this tells you what's been received, not what's been sent. Now, what happens if, oh my God, something's missing? What do I do? What do I do? Well, first of all, read the instructions. Again, Babson tells you this. Over the next few weeks, they'll be bombarded with application documents. So allow 2 to 5 days, and that's really 2 to 5 business days, not weekends, for materials to appear as received on your My Babson Portal. So that was the example of that My Babson Portal. So again, even in the digital age, you have to allow for a little bit of time for things to appear. Now again, we're going to send things, and I say we, me and your teachers, are going to send things right at the end of October. Let's say October 29th or thereabouts. And if it takes 2 to 5 days, it probably won't show up as received in your portal until the beginning of that week. Some colleges may take even a little bit longer. So again, I've said to start, you can look at your portal, but you don't have to act on anything until about a week thereafter. So just about November 8th is fine for early action and early decision. Now, if at that point, if at November 8th, you're noticing that something is still missing, call. Don't email the college. Call them after that amount of time. Email will get lost in the shuffle. That's not going to do you any good. If you're an introvert, let's get over it and just have you call the school so there is a personal connection there. However, no news is good news. Even if something is showing as missing on the portal, if you don't get a missing materials email, you're okay. Okay? If it makes you feel good to give a call after a few days, go right ahead. But most things will appear in the portal again after about 2 to 5 days. So give it just about a week. Now, if something is missing, follow up with your teacher or counselor. Please don't ask for confirmation during the week. We're really not going to have time to do that for every single student. So do yourself a favor, just let us know if something's missing after about 2 to 5 days on your portal. Now, again, you parents may be a little disappointed to hear this, but the colleges really do want to hear from the student. So the student should follow up if something is missing. Okay? Again, they want to see that the student is responsible. That's why they want to hear from the student. But overall, give it a few days after the deadline for things to appear as received on your portal. Now let's keep going here. So let's say after a week, November 8th, something is still seen as missing, or you get an email from the college saying we're missing something. You know what you're going to find? These missing materials emails are as polite as they can be. Look at this. We are excited that you have applied to Dartmouth, but as of this morning, your application is incomplete. It's not saying we're going to throw your application out in the garbage, or now there's a black mark on your application because something is late. Again, if something's late and it's not your fault, okay, a teacher gets sick or something just gets lost in the mail, you can't be penalized for it. They know this and they just want to follow up. They really won't start reading your application until about 2 weeks after the deadline. So there always is a little buffer period for things to come in. But they tell you, check your status to determine what hasn't been received. And they usually give you a date by which things must be received. Yeah, it's at that point, by that date, again, this would be for regular decision at Dartmouth. At that point, they'll say, hey, we really have to have it by that date because we're going to start reading around that time. So again, they usually give you a good amount of time to follow up with the right person. And here are your instructions. Here's the processing time, things like that. They basically just want you to follow up with the individual person. Here's another example. This is Santa Clara in California. Their email is a little bit different because they tell you in the email what's missing. The counselor rec, transcript, mid-year report, secondary school report. So, by the way, for early action and early decision, no one's going to ask you for a mid-year report because that's not available yet. And then they say, look at your application portal. Here's the deadline by which we need things to come in. Okay? Ignore this thing about through the Common Application site because we use Naviance. And again, they always say, if you've decided to withdraw your app, let us know so we can, get rid of your application and stop bothering you about these things. Keep in mind, too, that some colleges, if you applied very early before the deadline, you might get this computer-generated email even before the college's deadline. I had a student one year apply just about October 20th, and by October 27th, he was getting these email messages, and he got all panicked. And I said to him, well, the deadline hasn't happened yet, so don't worry about it. Okay, remember, everything comes separately. And if you get one of these notices, call the college, ask them what's missing. Okay, even if you look at your application status portal, I would still call and ask if something's missing. Then you follow up with your teacher or your counselor, and you find out. Hey, you just say, "Hey, I got this message from the college. Just wanted you to know, is there anything you need from me?" Again, please don't ask for confirmation about when things are sent. That's hard for us to do. So just let your teacher or counselor know this stuff. Okay? Now, again, no news is good news. Not all colleges have those portals. Georgetown is one of them. They're just going to tell you, Georgetown, for example, if something's missing. So if you don't hear from Georgetown, or any college for that matter, it means everything's fine. Okay? Now, again, you can't be penalized. You can't, it's not a black mark on your application for circumstances. One year Hurricane Sandy hit. Hey, of course, everybody missed the deadline at that point. Nothing can happen. One year Common App went down right on the deadline. They understood that, and they said, no problem, we'll give you a bit of time. Things that aren't your fault. Something got missing. One year I sent, and it happens, we're human. We happened to send the wrong transcript to a college for the incorrect student. And they just called me and said, hey, actually they called the student. That's what's going to happen more often. They're not going to call the counselor, they're going to call the student and say, hey, we have a transcript issue. Can you follow up with your counselor? And as long as you follow up, it's perfectly okay. And colleges lose materials all the time, guys. They may say, hey, we know you probably sent this in, but we can't find your transcript or your teacher rec. Could you follow up with that person? Now, you can be penalized if you miss your deadline. If you don't meet the November 1st deadline, it's going to get moved to regular decision. If you miss the regular decision time, that's it. It's game over. You can be penalized if you don't follow through, if you don't check your email or your spam folder. So you can't say it's somebody else's fault if you've been getting email from colleges saying we need you to follow up. Okay? So again, seniors, you guys are notorious for not checking your email. Now is the time for you guys to check those check your email and your spam folder. Follow-up times would be this. Again, for early action, I'd say a week after the deadline. For a college with a December 1 deadline or anything, pre-December 31st, I'd say, again, about a week. So let's say just about December 8th. And for regular decision, because that's the biggest volume overall, I would say give it about 3 weeks after the submission. Okay? So even if your portal is showing that something's missing, give it a week. Again, it's perfectly okay. You can't be penalized if something's missing. And that's all I had, guys. So good luck. Come see me if you have questions.